so much. It was 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, May 2015, and I was resolved. I knocked on my son's bedroom door and woke him up. Come on, bud, need you to get up. You're gonna be ready in 30 minutes. And my son, Micah, sat up in bed, 16 years old. He gave me that look. And if you're a parent, you know, either you gave this look or you received this look. And he says to me, it's 9 a.m. And I said, yeah, we got a big day ahead, let's go. So about 30 minutes later, the garage door opens and there's my car. And as we were heading to the car, I said to my son, hey, and I threw my keys and caught him and I said, you're driving. And he looked confused, where are we going? I don't know, he said north, east, south. We lived in Grand Haven, Michigan at the time when we were like really close to the lake, so we couldn't really say west. You choose, I said, just drive until you get tired or hungry. And my son slipped into the driver's seat, started adjusting the seat and the mirrors, and within a moment he turned on the car, he let it idle for a moment, and then gently put it to gear and rolled out of the garage. And I thought for a moment, I can see a slight smile on his face. Now, you know what, it's strange to me, things change, and they change so fast. When I was in driver's training, we had like a 4-week course in the middle of the summer. The first hour was all like these, like the fear videos that I call you watch. Drunk driving, accidents, all the terrible things that can happen when you're in a car, rain, all these terrible things. And then we spent the next 3 hours driving around pastoral West Michigan, which is kind of nice. Now, by the time my son was in driver's training, it was a different story. First off, it's not even through the high school anymore. It's actually a private company. It's 2 sessions, 6 weeks. You start when you're 14 years old and 8 months. Super young, like what? You're driving? So, and the other part about it was that I did not like driver's training. Session 1 is $500. Yeah, and I'm, you know, it was like very much, I was like, really? Now, due to school activities, my son finished the 2nd session of driver's training in early May, and just as he turned 16. And he couldn't get his license because at the time he needed 50 additional hours of driving before he could get his license. We needed documents. He'd be with a licensed driver, which is usually me. And what we do is at first, when we first start off, I'm like, we can do this, and I'd have him drive. I'd pick him up after school. He would drive from school to our house. And we lived in a small town, so that was 5 minutes. And maybe occasionally what I would do is I'd add, and like, okay, you're gonna drive to the grocery store. Okay, that's 5 minutes. So after a while, I mean, it would have taken months and months for us to get this degree and get this licensing. So what I decided to do was take him out for a drive. Because I'll tell you one thing, my son loves cars. When he was 5, he could identify every make and model of car on the road as we drove past them. His favorite thing to do was go to car shows. I can't tell you how much money I spent on Hot Wheels. I can't tell you how many times I watched the entire Fast and Furious franchise. And there's 10 movies there. They should have really stopped at 5. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many video games I've watched him where he's either racing a car and crashing it, which made my knees ache, or he's stealing a car.
Oh, nice.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. That's a whole franchise. So at 16, getting a license was going to be very important to him. And so that's when we were awake that morning. That weekend, my son chose south. We drove along US 31, and I said to him as we were getting on the highway, I'm like, just let me know when you need a break. And he nodded, okay. So we went to Grand Haven. We went to Holland. We went to Saugatuck Douglas. We went to South Haven, Benton Harbor. Tired, I asked. Nope, he said. And we kept going. Eventually, we ended up in South Bend, Indiana, which is about 2 hours away. And that's when he asked if we could stop. And so, that's where Notre Dame is. And he was 16. I'm like, let's go check out the university. You can walk around, you can see all the student stuff. He said, do you mind if I take 5 minutes to just rest, close my eyes? And I'm like, sure. So we parked, and he got in the passenger seat, and he's out cold. We didn't even get to look at the campus. He was so tired, I just drove us back. Now, the next Saturday was East. We chose East. He went to East Lansing. And this time, that's where Michigan State University is. And this time, we got to walk around the campus, and he really liked it. Liked it so much, he eventually picked it. So, the next Saturday after that was Sleeping Bear Dunes. And instead of turning around, we actually, when we got to the Sleeping Bear, we started walking up the dunes. For some reason, in my head, I thought you went up the first hill, and then there's the beach. And so we went up the first hill, and then I was surprised to see another 5 miles of dunes. And so, of course, we're halfway through there, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, honey. I think I'm getting heat stroke. We need to go back. And so I was really glad that we actually had that mileage in, and he had that driving, because we went to Traverse City, which is another 45 minutes away. We got food and water, and then I drove back home. Then we started doing this over multiple Saturdays. This was how we started just going places in Michigan. Just driving up, he drives in, I drive back. And we started racking up the hours. Our accumulated time went from 2.5 hours in May to 17.5 hours in June, 32 hours in July, and by early September we had more than enough time for him to get the license. Now there are times, when we did this, it wasn't always smooth sailing. He's a good driver, but there were times where slow down. Slow down. Oh my God, slow down! Or something that's a merge. Yeah, you gotta merge in between. See those two cars? You gotta merge. You gotta merge, you gotta hit those two cars. Come on, kid. And I'm hanging on to the nice. Yeah. But we saw a lot of Michigan that summer. And my favorite memory of those times is not places we went to, but just sitting in the car with him and hearing what he thought about things. He could drop the teenage act and just talk to me because no one else was around. And I listened to what music he liked. I listened to him talk about video games, marching band, what he wanted to do with his life. And I got to tell him a little bit about me, about how I learned to drive. My father bought a stick shift as my first car, and it was too hard to drive until a friend showed me, he was using lawnmowers all summer, so he was used to driving stick shifts, so that's how I learned. There's one time I was driving my car with my friend Joy, and the muffler fell off the car. And I called my dad, what do I do? And he's like, just drive home. It's just noisy. And we didn't realize how noisy it was. My friend Joy was plugging her ears and trying to shout, I'm gonna drop you off. Yes, crazy. But my time, these moments seem like yesterday. They seem like we just had these. It's been 10 years now since I taught him to drive. I just turned 50. It's long enough since I've learned how to drive. And I remember, these feelings. Something is ending when you learn how to drive, and something is beginning. And I remember it's kind of interesting to feel that myself, and I feel that with him. And it reminded me of a line from a Jack Kerouac quote on the road. Nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as it is ever on the road.
Nice.
Thank you.